This is our Alias Belt instructional video. I'm going to show you how I have my Alias Belt set up with its receivers, what all it can do, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble your receivers to your belt and give you some options as well. So starting off, I have one receiver in the front for appendix carry. So this receiver is attached. It's always in the same place. When I put my belt on, I know exactly where it's at. It keeps my holster in the right place at all times. The other thing I love about the Alias Belt is that the receiver is attached to the inside of the belt, so it slides through your belt loops really, really easy. Even belts that have smaller belt loops, it's going to fit through a lot easier than our current Alias Belt receiver with the belt brackets. It's also way stronger since it's actually bolted to the Tegris frame on the inside of the belt. Then I have a receiver on the right side here for a holster here. I have our standard here on this holster. I can click this in, and just like that, I'm ready to go with my holster. Now I have actually a mag caddy with a multi-tool in it. This is our Molly receiver, and let's say I want to clip that in there. Easy as that. I have a mag caddy, G-code mag caddy on our standard as well, and simple as that, I can click that in. So without doing anything, without having to change belts out, I can now go from a concealed carry belt and a really great carry sturdy belt to an OWB. The other thing that I love about this belt is we have elastic on here. A lot of you guys know, as you sit, you expand, and as you stand, you contract. So the belt is going to move with you. It gives you about an inch of stretch there. We also have a lot of adjustability built into this belt. Like I talked about, we have a Tegris frame on the inside of this belt, extremely lightweight, but also very rigid, not too rigid and not too loose. It's going to keep its rigidity for a long time. On the outside, we have a very durable Cordura that's real sleek looking on the outside. And then on the inside, we have a nice soft loop material. You'll notice on the inside of here that we have a lot of holes. We laser these holes the whole way around to attach our receivers to. So each receiver is going to bolt to your belt using 4 screws, which gives it incredible strength and keeps it lightweight and modular. And you have a lot of adjustability and a lot of options the whole way around the belt to put a receiver. So I'm going to show you how to go about putting the receiver on your belt and knowing where you're going to want to put it. So real quick, I'll show you on the inside of my belt how I have it set up. You see I have 4 different receivers set up in here. I have one for appendix, one for my right hip, and then 2 for my left hip. You'll see I also have some pads stuck on here. The nice thing about this being loop is that we can have Velcro accessories, hook and loop accessories to stick on the inside of the belt. And these pads, I'll get into the pads a little bit more in just a minute. So let's say you get your belt and you want to set it up and you aren't really sure where to put the receivers. You're going to notice that when you get your receiver, there's one screw in the bottom corner. You got a white rubber band. You got some extra screws and an Allen key, and then you also got 2 of the Velcro pads. The first thing you need to know is which direction you're going to want to put the belt on. My recommendation is if you are a right-hander, you're going to want the strap to go across to the left and then back to the right. So that means you're going to want to put the adjustment side in on your left-hand side and go around. If you're lefty, you're going to want to do the opposite and have the adjustment strap go from right to left. So I know that I'm going to want a receiver in the appendix range. My advice on this is do not put it on the very end of the belt because the belt's going to want to kick out and it's going to print a little bit. So my suggestion is put it about 4 spots in. 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's say that I'm not really sure about that and I'm not really sure where it's going to want to go. You're going to want to take your white rubber band and I'm just going to stick it somewhere towards the front here. My other receiver, I know I'm going to want it somewhere on my right hip. So I'm going to put that on and I'm going to put it, let's see, somewhere over here. I'm going to want it in that range. And now I'm going to have a third receiver that I'm going to want on my left hip. I'm going to put the white rubber band somewhere over here. So you can see here, I now have something for my appendix carry, something for my right hip, and something for my left hip. Now you're going to want to put your belt on. The way that this works out for me is that the loop is actually just left of the pants loop here. And I'm going to put it on like this. So for right-hander, generally you're going to want it in a fashion similar to this. Whether you carry appendix or you carry on the hip, this is pretty close to how you're going to want it. So now, that was a little bit off on where I wanted this. So I'm going to slide the rubber band under the loop and I think I'm going to want it right about there. One of my hip, it's under this loop, so I'm going to pull it forward. I tend to like my OWB holster a little bit forward of 3 o'clock. Think like 2:30 in that range. So I'm going to put the rubber band right about here. I think is about where I'm going to want that receiver. On this side, I generally am going to want a mag caddy either just behind or just in front of. If you have two, if you're going to use 2 receivers like I had showed you on my earlier belt, then you're going to put your rubber band in the other place. I'm going to move this forward a little bit so that I can have it roughly in this range. Okay, now that I have my rubber bands in the right place, I'm going to slide this off. Be careful that you're not taking off too aggressively and the rubber bands are getting moved. I had said 4 spots before and that's pretty close to where I was. I'm going to center this up over these holes. This one, I'm just going to pick the next closest. I'm going to put them between. You're going to want to put the rubber band between the set of holes. And then lastly, it's about there. All right, let's look at how to attach the receiver to the belt. The screw you see here, you're going to want to put face down. I'm just going to put it underneath the rubber band like that. Now, I'm going to just push it down a little bit, and I'm going to take this screw out. The reason we're doing this is because we want to make sure that the receiver doesn't pop open and you lose a spring or anything. Try not to lose that screw. Okay, we can now see that I want to line up these holes with the holes in the belt. I'm going to flip the belt over, and I'm actually going to flip this up, and you can see that it exposes holes through the belt here. I can take the screws that were given and I'm going to give it a couple of turns, making sure that it is threading in. Don't want to tighten it down all the way because you might need to move the receiver around a little bit to line up all the holes. So I gave that a couple turns. I'll flip this up. At this point you could get rid of the rubber band, it's not going anywhere. You're going to tighten it down. You don't want to over tighten these. They're little screws. You don't want to break the threads off inside the receiver. That's a nightmare. I'm just going to use the top of this Allen key, this Torx key, to tighten it. That's all tighter that I really need it. Okay, I can get rid of this rubber band. And just like that, I have my first receiver attached to the inside of my belt. It's extremely strong. It's not going anywhere. You don't see the screws from the outside. And I can still easily attach my accessories to it. I'm going to follow the same procedure for my other 2 white rubber bands and get those other receivers set up. And then you're ready to put the belt on and test everything and make sure that everything is in the right place that you want it. Now let's talk about the little square pads that came with this. We want to add a little bit of comfort. Having the receivers on the inside of the belt with the right body type, if you're a skinny person, kind of bony, having the receivers on the hips can be uncomfortable. So adding the pads to put next to the receivers helps level out this surface here, as well as kind of softens some of the edges of the receivers. If you're wearing jeans, I'm not a bony guy, but I'm not an overweight guy either. I truly don't really notice the receivers being on the inside of my belt. I put them on there just to have some added comfort, because why not? They came with the receivers, but I found that I truly don't really need it, especially for appendix. You're a little more squishy there. There's no bones. This isn't really going to push into. So we added those there for some added comfort. Use them if you would like to use them. You may find that you do not need them at all. I hope this helps out getting your Alias belt system set up. If you have any other questions, make sure you hit us in the comments below. Go to the website, theneomag.com. The customer service is always happy to help you out. Thanks. Have an awesome day.